Welcome once again to Robert Valor. And what in the world? Oh, that's a TV. Let's see, what's that black thing in the back? I started my first podcast that I haven't done in over a year while I've been doing music and lyrics, and I even stopped writing novels to devote time to writing songs. So in my first podcast, I talked about the fires, hazard, the smoke in Florida, and compared it to 2001, 1999, on up to 2001. Worst in history. I predict that because of the drought we're having in Florida, that this is going to be the worst in the history of the state of Florida this year. If you're a tourist, you may not want to come. So that's my next topic, tourism. You know, tourism in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and even 80s used to be a great thing. There used to be beaches you could go to. Not so many more. They're all built out and they all have pretty much private access, with the exception of a few public access areas for which you have to pay for parking, quite steep. Even Daytona Beach, in the last couple of years, has instituted a $20 a day fee that they never had before. You could just drive your car down on Daytona Beach. Not anymore. Now we actually have people getting run over quite often on Daytona Beach because the type of people that are driving cars irresponsibly are not paying. They're not going slow. 5 miles an hour is the speed limit, and they're doing 25, 30. And the cops are catching them. They are ticketing them, but they're also being extremely reckless. Tourism is not a great thing. Not just for Florida, but for the entire world. Everybody wants to go somewhere else where they can get away from the United States, vice versa. Cities overseas in Italy and Europe and Paris, the Louvre, they're all instituting fees to control crowds and make it much more difficult to get into these sites and see, even in the Alps. So the problem is there's just, and let me warn you, I speak like a sailor, okay? I am a sailor, 10 years. And I just call it like I see it. And here it is. There's just too many fucking people on the face of this earth. There's too many fucking people in Florida. There's too many fucking people in the United States. There is just too many fucking people. Maybe that's because they fuck all the time, I don't know, and create kids, but the reality is there's just too many fucking people for the amount of resources and venues that we have in this world of ours. When I was born and raised in Orlando, Florida, back in 1951-52, Orlando was only a town of 55,000 people. Imagine that. 55,000 people is all that existed in Orlando, Florida. By the time I was in first grade, we were up to about 60,000 people. You didn't have to go far, because if you went too far, you'd run out of paved roads in Central Florida. That's a fact. We only had two really main thoroughfares back then. We had 1792 and we had Highway 50. That was it. And of course, US 1 and part of A1A. That was it. Okay, there was no I-75 at that time. There was a single lane road. There was no I-4. There was no I-95. Those all came much later, based on funding that the Eisenhower administration came up with and was passed down to other generations of presidents to complete. So Florida was at one time a wonderful place with pristine lakes and pristine rivers and pristine everything. The Indian River, the Banana River was terrific for fishing and shellfishing. It was clean. You could swim in it. It was wonderful. Today, the Indian River is pretty much cooked. Though they say they're trying to clean things up, they can't. Environmentally, it's cooked. You know, if you run your body down with eating fat foods your whole life and become fat and grossly obese, you're cooked. If you stuff your face and clog your arteries, your heart is cooked. Well, that's kind of the way the Indian River and the Banana River are, as they are cooked forever. You can try to plant all of the oysters, seagrass, replant it to get it going, but unless you do the one thing that has destroyed it, and that's population, fertilization, and septic tanks, which predominantly all the homes built back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s were all on septic tanks, and then 70s and 80s, and even up through the 90s. Every fucking home on the East Coast and West Coast of Florida was on septic tanks. Later on, they got tied into city utilities, and that changed. But predominantly all the homes in Florida, the older homes, are all still on older style leaching septic tanks that leach their horrible contents into the ground, into the water supply, into the runoff that goes into the rivers, kills and destroys the fish in the river. And that is where Florida is at now. I'm a fisherman. As you might see, I try to fish. But the reality is, for all of the people who call themselves boat captains and fishing experts, fishing in Florida is pretty much cooked unless you go way offshore, 20, 30, 40 miles out. So, tourism. There's too many tourists. There's too many tourists coming here because they want to escape the cold from up north. I can't blame people for that. Probably if I had arthritis, which I do, I wouldn't want to live up north. That's why I moved back to my home where I was born, because it was warm here. Well, now the problem with being warm is it's too fucking warm. It's too fucking warm. Because the average temperatures in the state of Florida, for example, in 1955, the average temperature in May ran about 89 degrees. Now the average temperature in Orlando, Florida, Central Florida area, runs about 95 to 96 a day from mid-May on. Once you get up to August, in August, and this is a good example because here's the difference too with too many fucking people. Trees, lack of greenery and vegetation, lack of oxygen. As Florida has become more and more populated, let me back up too. Back in 1974, when I left to go into the Navy, Florida had a population of about 12 million people. I believe the population today is about 26 million people, and that does not constitute or count snowbirds. When the snowbirds come down here, so that's the differentiation in populations, is because of the snowbirds. But all of those people required homes. All of those people required more cars on the road, more jobs, more services, more strip shopping malls. Pretty much, I forget who the singer was, put up a sign and paved the parking lot, whatever her name was back in the 70s. We have paved over everything. We have put in concrete and asphalt roads, condos up and down the beaches in the state of Florida, where there's no more access to the beaches hardly anymore unless you live in one of those condos. And quite frankly, who the fuck would want to live in one of Florida's condos? They're all crashing in value. They're too expensive, the new ones, and they are an absolutely marketplace disaster right now. Worst thing Florida ever did was build fucking condos. So we've paved over all of the greenery, all of the land. We've developed it. We have taken away the watershed and all the oak trees and greenery, which, and I personally hate oak trees. I love them when they're far away from a house, but these developers in Florida, they'll plant fucking oak trees 5 feet away from your house because they say the county laws require it. That's just fucking idiocy. So we have paved over everything. The watershed doesn't exist anymore to shed off into the groundwater, down into the caverns, down into the aquifer. So that's another reason too many fucking people. We've overbuilt in Florida too many fucking golf courses. We have golf courses coming out our ass, and the number of people that are here don't want to support golf courses. They don't go play that often. Actually, and I'm going to tell you this, as the older population dies off, and I am one of those older population, fewer and fewer people are playing golf at LPGA courses. What we have in the villages is little tiny rink-a-dink executive courses and smaller putt-putt courses for the little chillins that want to play. And I loved golf when I played as a teen and as I got older as an adult and as an officer in the Navy, and I played all the time. But I just recently gave it up, finally. My hips hurt too bad. But there's too many of everything. There's too many fucking golf courses that suck up the water from the aquifer and deplete it. We have Nestle's corporation pumping out 10 million gallons of fresh aquifer water every single fucking day. Do you know what that does to the water table of the aquifer? Drop, drop, drop. And when the aquifer, as I told you before, drops, we have sinkholes open up. And we just recently had one open up big time on Route 33 in Sumter County, an access road to the villages. Finally, there's too many fucking golf carts. You know, it wasn't bad when the villages, for example, first started. Everybody had a golf cart. That was when there was only 25,000 people in the villages. When my wife and I moved here many, many years ago, over 20 years ago, there were, there were 55,000 people then. 55,000. So the villages was the size of Orlando in 1951-52. Think of that. Think of that. Today, the villages is up to 200,000 people and more when the snowbirds come. And every one of those people have to have not only one golf cart, many families who move here have to have 2 golf carts, even 3 golf carts. No shit, 3 golf carts. The other issue is back in 2007, when I got my first golf cart here, it was only $9,000. The average price of a golf cart right now in the villages is $25,000 fully equipped. $9,000 to $25,000. Well, the same shit's happened with cars. But it's just insanity. It's absolute insanity. The number of golf carts, the number of people, the number of bicycles, the number of people riding group bicycles on the road, especially here in the villages, and just the number of tourists. The roads have never, ever maintained or kept up to the population growth in the state of Florida. When you go to a beach, if you can get to a beach in Florida, you can barely find a spot to sit on at a beach in Florida anymore. Usually when I go out fishing, say in Crystal River or Homosassa, I'll actually from time to time find trash in the water or a big human turd floating by from one of the septic tanks or leach fields. Oh, it's just, I gotta tell you, there's just too many fucking people. And that's one of the reasons why Europe, Amsterdam, Italy, Germany, they're all taxing people, tourists coming into their countries. Now, that is not something that Florida does. Ron DeSantis, shittiest governor we've ever had, and Donald Trump wants Ron DeSantis replaced with a black Uncle Tom by the name of Byron McDonald, that all the MAGA sheriffs in the state of Florida endorse. Byron McDonald. He's a person that loves law enforcement and is good for Florida. Don't you fucking believe it. Worst thing that could ever happen to Florida. Besides Ron DeSantis, piece of shit that he is. Ron DeSantis and his wife stole $10 million of tax money last year and pocketed it and used it for their own personal gain and services. Corruption, because he's a bootlicker. Ron DeSantis is trying to get a job with Donald Trump during his remainder of his administration, because he's going to be out in 2026. He's going to be out this November. We do not want Byron McDonald's in Florida. I'd pick any other Republican, white person over him. I'm not a racist, but I'm just saying Byron McDonald's is the Uncle Tom of Uncle Toms, just like the black senator in South Carolina is Scott. And I'm not talking Rick Scott. He's a shitty senator too. But Ron DeSantis, since he came to power, has done absolutely nothing for the state of Florida. But one of the things that any governor should do in the state of Florida, if we're ever going to control population influx, is to have a head tax. Everybody coming into Florida across the state line needs to pay $200 head tax every single time they come in. Now, that would be exempt from truckers and stuff, but if you're coming to Florida, you need to pay a head tax. If you come to Orlando, Tampa, St. Pete, you should have to pay an extra tax every time you purchase something of about 15 to 20% extra. Now, this would not apply to Florida residents like me or you. This would only apply to people who do not live here. They would be subject to an additional 20% retail tax on everything they buy, even cruise ships. So that's my recommendation. Florida is struggling financially, pretty much like all other states are, and the federal government that's $39 trillion in the hole. But we need to start taxing. Europe does it all the time, and nobody complains about it in Europe. In Europe, you can't go shit or take a pee if you don't pay to get into that bathroom. Every bathroom in Europe is a pay to go, so they all pay. We should also do that in every federal facility, every museum we have, every institution. If you want to pee or take a shit in one of our restrooms, be it in a restaurant or at a gas station, you should have to pay a fee unless you're a state of Florida resident. Now, how can that be done? Well, quite the same way it was done in Germany and Vienna, Austria. You go buy something, you get a receipt, it's got a special entry code to the bathroom, you use that entry code, punch it in, and you're in scot-free. Why? Because you purchased something at that restaurant. Same thing can be done here, and all that tax money can go to the coffers of either the federal government, the state government, or the city. That's what I recommend. That will better control population influx, tourism, trampling the, locals like us. We do not like, personally, all the tourists coming here. Well, it's good for business. Well, who gives a shit? Let's go back to the way things were in the 1970s, when things were a little bit better, when there was a lot less people. Tourism is a problem in the United States. Tourism is a problem everywhere. I do not blame Germany, Italy, France, Spain, Switzerland, and all the other countries that now have a head tax for entry into their country. Same thing also from the cruise ships. That the cruise ships pay, they have to build that into the price because there's just too many fucking cruise ships polluting the oceans of the world. 5,000, 6,000 people on one fucking ship. Are you kidding me? That is not fun. Who thinks that's fun? Population. So the bottom line is there's too many fucking people. People, you need to stop having sex. You need to use condoms. You need to use birth control. And you Catholics out there that don't believe in it, you need to start doing it too, because of the simple fact there's too many fucking people in this world, and our planet can no longer handle it. And with that, Robert Valor out. Think about it.